This is your 40 points extra credit for Monday morning. If you want to explain this example, this is the first one that I was going to do, 1A on the I try me explaining side, but I would love for one of you guys to volunteer for that 40 points extra credit and explain this example. So for 1A, our directions ask us to solve this. So this is an equation this time. We're looking for solutions, a number that I could plug in and make this statement true. So in other words, the left side here has to be equal to 0. So what in the world can I plug in for x to make this equal to 0? Well, you could sit there and guess all day long, but we obviously want to find a method that is easier than just sitting here guessing, trying to figure out what I could plug in to make this true. So first of all, you're used to always isolating the variable, getting x alone. But in this case, there's two different parts here where the variable appears. So isolating the variable will not work this time. What will work is taking the left-hand side and factoring it. So if I decide on a factoring method here, looking at my terms, there's two terms here on the left-hand side. And going down my list, GCF, is there a number in common that I could divide both 3 and 12 by? Or do they share any x's? In fact, yes. I could divide both of these by 3, and they both share an x. What would be left in my parentheses? Well, 3x times x gets me back to 3x squared. Bring down the plus sign, and 3x times 4 gets me back to 12x. So that's equal to 0. So far I took the left-hand side from expanded form to factored form. The reason that I did that is to get the variables separated. Really, the 3x, you could write it in parentheses. It's being multiplied by x plus 4. So here's where we're going to learn a new property on Monday. It's called the zero product property. Let me write that down. And that zero product property says if you're multiplying two quantities together, here's the first quantity and here's the second quantity. If you're multiplying those together and your answer is 0, well, how can you get an answer of 0 when you multiply two numbers? Either the first one, this first quantity, has to be equal to 0, or the second quantity has to be equal to 0 in order to get 0 as your answer, because any number or quantity times 0 is 0. So from there, we then decide that either that first parenthesis, the 3x, the first quantity, has to be equal to 0, or the second quantity, x plus 4, has to be equal to 0. And we solve each of these one-step equations to find, in fact, two solutions to this. So how do I get x alone here? X is being multiplied by 3, so the inverse would be divide both sides by 3. So x is equal to 0 divided by 3 is 0. Or on the other equation here, how do I get x alone? Subtract 4 from both sides. That's inverse operations. So x is equal to -4. So I got two different solutions here. What indicated that I would have two solutions? Back at the original left-hand side, the highest exponent was 2. Therefore, that indicates that I could have two possible solutions here. So my two solutions are 0 and -4. In fact, an easy one to check would be plugging in 0. If I plug in 0, would I get a true statement? Well, 3 times 0 squared plus 12 times 0, is that equal to 0? Well, definitely. 0 squared is 0, 0 times 3 is 0, and 12 times 0 is 0, so 0 plus 0, that's equal to 0. You can also check -4. It works as well.